Welcome to another Quantum Conversation, brought to you by AcousticHealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. And welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to go multidimensional and go beyond the beyond in my call today with a timeline technician and a modern mystic. Nicola Bosdet is with us, and I'm so pleased to introduce her to our beautiful quantum conversation community. Hello, Nicola. Welcome.
Hello, Loren. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Well, this is a beautiful topic that we're embarking on today because you, as a timeline technician, have some intellect on how we can really work with timelines to control world events. And so, what a beautiful time in our world to actually do so and talk about that. Let's hear a little bit about you. Your background, your bio is here on this page. And your ability, your multidimensional ability is quite exquisite. Can you share with us how you are a timeline technician?
Wow. Yes. Where to start? It's something that's actually evolved over the years. I think I've been learning different things layer by layer. If I go back to one of the first scenarios I can remember where I really understood just the amazing capability that we have, I was actually talking to a tax office about the fact that I was having difficulty paying my tax bill. And I had a new tool with me called the quadrants and keys. And I thought, well, hey, let's just try it out because I've got nothing to lose here. So I call the number and someone answers, and I explained that I'm going to be late on my tax bill. It's like, oh, that is really not good. You told us that it would be in on time. You know, we trusted you, and this, yeah, no go sort of thing. And I was like, oh, flip, you know, I'm in trouble. And the most extraordinary thing happened. The line dropped. So he'd gone. And I thought, wow, okay. So I went back to my tool and I thought, I'm not quite aligned yet. What do I need to do? So I followed the tool. I realigned myself. I rang again and someone else answered the phone. I went through the same scenario. Look, I'm having problems with my tax bill and, you know, I really want to pay it, but can you be a little bit flexible here? And she's like, okay, let me have a look at your file. All right, well, I think there are some things that we can do, but I'm still going to need it fairly quickly. You know, can you get this all together within a month? I'm thinking like, oh, I don't think I can quite do that. Extraordinary thing happened. The line dropped again, second time. So I'm like, oh, flip. This is fantastic. Right, let's just go back to my tool and get it right this time. So I realigned myself and I rang a third time and someone else picked up the phone. And I said, look, this is the situation. I really want to pay my tax, but I'm going to need a bit of flexibility around time frame. He said, oh, well, would 3 months be okay for you? I'm just like, well, I can get it to you in less than that. I can probably do 2. He said, but you don't need to. You can take 3 months. I'm like, oh my gosh. And that was really one of the first times that I realized that we do have these tools available to us. They take a little bit of learning, but my goodness, what a wonderful way to learn about timelines.
Yes, beautiful. So let's talk more about the alignment that you did and what that truly means, because we can all try to center in and feel aligned, but how did you align yourself?
Well, I actually align myself with an amazing tool which came through with the nature beings and the animals called the quadrants and keys. And it's something that I'm still learning about 8 or 9 years later, the different aspects of it. What it is basically is if you visualize a circle and it's divided into 4, and you focus 1/4, we can try it in a minute, of that circle running all the way down 1/4 of your body. So it might be the front quarter of your body, it might be the back quarter, left-hand side, right-hand side. And then you bring into that space a nature being, a flower, an animal. And at the same time, you move to the back of your heart and you open that space up. What it does, I'm afraid I have to get a little bit technical here, is it opens up a time slither. And in that time slither, the intention, well, it slides in. It's quite incredible. So that's how it works. And I thought actually, before we get too much into the interview, perhaps we could do one just to set the scene and to get into the, the feel of the moment, because I'd quite like to do oneness if you're up for that. The
Oh, that
vibration of
is so
oneness.
beautiful. Isn't it amazing that it really is the portal of the heart, and the back of the heart, that's the entryway. So let's do a little attunement to that. Yes.
Before I jump in, conscious of the fact that we haven't looked at the slides yet, the first slide will just get people aware of the fact that I'm going to be bringing through possibly some language that you're not likely to have heard of before. And I wanted to explain what that is so that people don't go into their heads and start posing questions.
Should I show the slide?
Why do you, yeah, what if you could
Yeah,
get that out?
let's
I've
do
tried
that.
to make it fun and easy because it's not the easiest thing to, okay, it's the one after that.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Oh, it's the one after that. I'm sorry.
This one.
Here. Okay, so you'll see a whole load of phrases. This is my language. It's a closed system, so I can't really explain it except by explaining it using that language. And I did try that with a friend, and that didn't really work. So the best way to interpret this is that these are all points in time and space. So if I'm saying something is in a lower parallel universe sphere, that lower parallel universe sphere will have a point in time and space. If I say something is in the inner ventricing, it doesn't really matter what is an inner ventress. The fact is that it is a designated point in time and space. And what I might also do when we really drill down and get very aligned, very accurate, which is what my way of doing alignment's all about, I might even bring in some other things, some levels, which could be dimensions, they could be something else. But the point is that we're trying to get to the most fine-tuned point to get an alignment. And this is really what the nature beings and the animals and my team showed me, this unique way, which is the way that we do it. But doing it with me, we're obviously going in together. So go for the feeling of it and don't be concerned or try and rationalize what the language is. Okay, so if we are ready, could you possibly move us back to the slide before, the vibration of oneness slide? Yes. That's the second one. Just after that, if you go into the next one, there you go. Right. This is a drawing I did for the vibration of oneness. I've done lots of drawings over the years, many hundreds of them. And it's a way of expressing things that perhaps I can't fully understand, perhaps none of us can fully understand. As you'll see, if you look in the middle of it, this whole thing is obviously cellular. Won't go into the detail of that, but for me, when we're talking about oneness, we're being one with our cells, one with our true self, or sometimes I even say one with our true selves, another way of looking at it. So there's the drawing, and what I'm going to do is take you through with the tool into the vibration of oneness. And so if you like, you can look at the drawing. If you'd rather follow me with this guided visualization, then do that. But if we could keep it as a backdrop, that would be super. Okay. Right, so imagine your body is divided into 4 sections all the way down. Okay, so a little bit like an orange, for instance, that's divided into 4 segments. And I'd like you to put your attention on the back quarter on the right-hand side. So I'm putting my hand on my head, right-hand side, that back quarter. And just feel that all the way down in the body, what that space is, where it is. And do not take it below your feet. Do not take it above your head. You just stay in the body, in that space. Okay. Right, I think we're all there. Now, feeling into that, invite in a flower or a nature being of your choice. I'm bringing in a mountain, or rather a mountain has presented, and I'm feeling the frequency, the vibration of this mountain all the way down this section of my body. So whatever it is that you choose, enter into depth, into deepness, into oneness with that being. Hold it. Now, go to the back of your heart. The space I use is actually behind my back. So it is literally outside the heart, outside the body, but where the heart is. And now invite the second nature being who's presenting. For me, this is a daffodil. So we're holding both at the same time. It's opening a new space up. This slither of time that I mentioned. As we breathe the vibration of oneness, and the vibration of oneness breathes us, as we breathe the vibration of oneness, and the vibration of oneness breathes us across and through the lower time nodes, as we breathe the vibration of oneness, and the vibration of oneness breathes us across and through the interparallel universe spheres, and as we breathe the vibration of oneness, and the vibration of oneness breathes us across and through the lower horizontal sphere plates, as we breathe the vibration of oneness across and through the interparallel universe nodes, vector 2 and the lower parallel universe spheres, as we breathe the vibration of oneness across and through all force noticing in the lower parallel universe spheres, as we breathe the vibration of oneness across and through all force quantum noticing in the lower parallel universe nodes, and all force time spheres in the left lower ventricing will be no more, and all force time occlusions in the left lower plate matrixing will be no more, and all force time nodes in the interparallel universe nodes will be no more. As we breathe the vibration of oneness across and through the lower time nodes, as we breathe the vibration of oneness across and through the interparallel universe spheres, as we breathe the vibration of oneness across and through the lower quantum noticing. +6 +6 +6 3t +6 +6 Okay. So I feel that this is good. We're set into that for the rest of the show. Thank you so much that we could start with this.
Yes. Okay. Well, that is the alignment, that magical alignment. Can you explain what's going on there? What we're feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're feeling is a frequency of space that I call Nanya. And it's one that the nature beings and the animals showed me, explained the tools. And it's one where they came together It's one that they created and they shared with me. And I think that's quite important because, you know, a lot of the time it's like us doing stuff and then we'll bring in or we'll tap into the animals. And this was very different. And so the first thing they did was they came to me and they said, look, we need a different way of talking to each other. We need a different way of engaging with each other. And they brought forward over a period of days what I call the 10 terms of engagement, a new way of interacting with the natural world. And the best bit of it was that they explained it in such a language that was really easy to understand and where I felt like I was talking to friends. And it felt like it was a team. Well, it was a team, and that team has strengthened and grown over the years. So that was the first part. So just to highlight what we're feeling there is a frequency that was brought in very consciously in a collaboration with the nature beings. And the oneness vibration has another level to it. It's part of something I call the New Earth Resonance Quilt. And I'd love to share that another time. I don't have a drawing of it here. But the Resonance Quilt is, again, a team effort. It's a collaboration with the nature beings and the animals. And what happened over a period of several evenings is that we built it up layer by layer. So one night it was the bird kingdom that presented, and we worked with them, and that was one layer. And then another night, it was the mammals from the Amazon forest, and that's how it was built up. And so when we do these frequencies, they are very deep. You know what I mean? They're very deep into nature, and additionally, this whole theme of integration and this complex layering, they also include Gaia and Tara and a being that I call Nana. And that's something that we can perhaps talk about in a minute because it's a whole piece unto itself. But that's a little bit of background about these frequencies. There are 32 of them. Well, you can make a few extra, take them away, you know, as one wants. But they are intrinsically a collaboration with the nature beings and the natural world.
Yeah, so here you say that the nature beings and the animals showed you this. Can you share that story of what took place there when that happened?
Yeah, wow. Well, okay, there are two things. There's a tree in my garden, which is a birch tree. It's one of those wonderful trees where you can actually clamber into it and be right inside it. And I used to love spending time in there. I still do. And one day I was in there and I got a message coming through. Are you ready? Are you up for this? Are we going to do this together? Like, do you want the job? Here's the contract, sort of thing. And it's like, oh, what's this all about? What am I going to be doing? And I didn't get the small print right. I just knew that it was with my friends and that I have a huge commitment to the animals and to the natural world. And I was like, yep, okay, you know, I'm up for it. I'm going to do it. And I said yes. And once I'd done that, it followed really quite fast onto that I started receiving lots of different information. As I mentioned, the terms of engagement, the New Earth resonances, the Gaia spine points, that's another whole thing, and the quadrants and keys. And then it never stopped. It went on for 9 years. It just never stopped. That's just been the most amazing thing. And every time I think, oh, well, I've reached a point, I must tell everyone about this. You know, I've reached a still point, and then something else comes through and something else. So it is very much a journey, but that gives you a feel for how the information is presented.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for saying yes to that. That really is a beautiful partnership as well. Okay, so here we are, and we've just gone through the equinox. Can you talk a little bit about what is going on our planet and what you see is occurring?
Of course, multidimensionally, there are many different perspectives as to what's going on at the moment. I'm just pondering the perspective to take on this. Well, I tell you what, one thing that I really felt with this latest window was that there is something new. Now, I know we've been talking about new things for a long time, and we're always looking out for new things, and everyone gets excited about the new things, and they're maybe a bit disappointed if they're not quite as new as they thought they'd be. But I have to say that with this one, it reminded of a conversation I had in the early days when I was having a few conversations with the Elohim for a short period of time. And they said to me that we'll reach a point in time where, well, it's time for the party. We'll reach the time of the party. And everyone will go along to the party. And I feel that we are at that party moment. What was interesting and what I feel applies directly to the recent equinox is that they said, when you go to the party, there are some people who want to go to the section where there's all the strawberry cheesecake. When you go to the party, there are some people who want to go to the chocolate eclairs or the creme caramel. Everyone's going to have different flavors and different tastes, and that's okay because it's the party, right? It wouldn't be a party if you didn't get your own choice, and all the choices are there. And then they said, and at the end of the party, people are going to go their own ways. They're going to go in different directions to go home. And it doesn't make it any less fun that you're not all going to the same place, because your choice is going to be honored. And that's what I feel about what's happening at the moment. And I'm pretty excited about that, because I feel that we've got the new Earth, and we've also got new Earth planes on new Earth. And I feel right now we're opening into these planes, and they're going to be quite different for lots of different people in different ways. And, you know, I know my way is different to some people, and I have other friends and their way is different to my way. And I'm quite excited about that, because I think that potentially there's a lot of sharing and really good stuff and interesting new information and different perspectives that hasn't perhaps come forward before, because we hadn't reached the right point. But I do feel that with the recent passage that we have, so that's certainly one thing I'd like to share about that.
All right, so it's a party. It's a beautiful party, and we're each going to go our own way. And here we are as a globe creating new Earth and bringing forward new Earth, and then the timelines. So let's go back to timelines, because you shared with us how we align with that beautiful process. And so as we're moving through something in the collective, it really is our own vibration that sets us up for that timeline. Is that what's going on?
Well, that was the first bit of timeline. Sorry, we sort of got onto something else. That was the first thing I learned.
Yeah.
Then I went into learning about the construction of timelines, which is amazing when you're working with healing. So if I just give you an example, I was working with, was an awful situation, a lovely girl, and she'd been in a motorbike accident. And it was extremely serious. She was having to have multiple operations. They didn't know if she was going to walk again or, you know, be in a wheelchair, and etc. And so I worked with her for 2 days approximately, where we work through all the timelines in her time bundle. So this is what I'm bringing forward. When we're working with timelines, we all have a time bundle, and there are 5 timelines in every bundle. So the timeline where she might have had difficulty walking in the future, the timeline where she had absolutely no ill effects from the accident, and you know, she went on to have a very happy long life. The timeline where, because it was her pelvis, she couldn't have children. The timeline where, so you see what I mean, you've got the different timelines. These come up, and what you do is you work through and clear each one to get to the optimized timeline. So you're like looking through and you're working with that person, like, well, oh, no, we don't want that. So what I help is direct people on the path. Like, let's not go down there. No. Let's go over here. Let's go to that one. And so you work through each of the timelines in the time bundle. And in normal circumstances, you're sorted by the end of that time bundle. But when you have big world events like we've seen at the moment with what's been going on, there were actually 5 time bundles, so many timelines. That was more complicated. But going back to the previous one, truly anyone can do it. Because if you're working healing with someone, you know, we all know, because we might be concerned or fearful about something. What's the worst outcome? What's the best outcome? What's the intermediary outcome? And then if we just put our attention on each of those outcomes and really going for the optimized one and working through blockages, clear, you know, whatever it is, to optimize the good timeline. So that's another way of looking at timelines, and it's a tool that I use with healing. I'm pleased to say that she came out of it. She got married barefoot on a beach last summer, and she's doing really well. So that's that's another timeline tool. And there's another one that's a little bit more complicated, but as Miss Dick, you know, I work with this sort of thing, and that's with world events. What can happen is you have a world event. So here we are, we're in our world event. We won't talk about the current world event because I think we've all talked about it so much, we don't want to talk about it directly, but here we have world event. And we have past events, and then we have future events. What can be done when the planet is under some sort of a control is that a past event gets thrown into the future, a timeline. You could have the American Civil War back in whenever it took place. Let's just take it over here, and it's put in a point in space and time. When that is done multiple times into the future, it's like throwing a ball into the future. And that is a common tool that is brought in for control timelines. So there it is.
That's interesting. Can you explain a little bit more of that? That really is wild. You said it's like throwing a ball. And so when people are optimizing, going for that optimum timeline, it's with the feeling and the thoughts, right? Is that what you mean? So not letting any doubt or thoughts or feelings come up around that? Is that really how we can control that?
Yeah, so I thought you'd ask this. Now, I have to admit, I've been so busy working with negative timelines as a mystic, I hadn't even got to the point of applying that tool, but we are moving into that. And yes, I can talk about that. And there's another thing that I certainly do, and I'm just trying to think how to apply it to everyone who's listening. But I actively apply new. So I might, or introducing new timelines into low parallel universe spheres, introducing new time plates into the interweave, introducing new time nodes into left lower ventricing, you know, whatever it is. So when I'm working with people in the session, and they've got a particular objective or goal or an issue, we will use that type of tool to open into the new. But going back to the example that I was giving about throwing the ball into the future, we can certainly try doing that in a moment. I think the key is this: the simpler and the more fun something is, the more effective often. And I would say that if I looked at all of my work, a lot of it's quite complex. The most effective and useful tools can be colored balls. How simple is that? A colored ball.
Okay. So explain then how we would use the colored balls.
So if we were looking at optimizing something into the future, and I'm just bringing this through now because I hadn't particularly focused on that. What I can see is that if one visualizes a triangle behind our backs, and at the end of each of the point bits on the triangle is a colored ball. Okay, so we just do this together now. So get your triangle in place. You want to select 3 colors for your 3 balls. Okay, and tell me when you're ready. You got them? All right, now you got your triangle, you got your 3 color balls. Visualize jumping that back or moving it back 2 feet behind you. 2 feet. Okay, there's your triangle, there are your color balls. They're in a new point in space and time now. Hold that now while still being behind yourself. Look forward at the same time and see the 3 color balls in space and time. Boom, don't think, look now. You got it?
Yes.
You see, it's so easy, and we said we were going to have fun in this session today. It's just so easy, and that, for me, is everything. So, yeah, these tools present, this is about being multidimensional, is that we can see things in so many different ways, and it doesn't need to be complicated, and you can do it on the bus, you know. Easy to grasp. And I got that from the nature beings, because if you look back at the conversations I had on the 5th Dimensional Girl blog, the 5D blog, at the end of every conversation, they had a little tool, a little thing, and they showed me that it didn't need to be complicated. And I love that, because the simpler the better, I always feel with these things.
So when we take that triangle with the balls, just to recap that, and it's in the back of us, and then we take it to the back, do we ourselves move our awareness to that triangle in the back and then look forward at it again?
You move the awareness to the balls, because as you are moving your awareness into those colors are opening up lower dimensional sphere plates in the internodes. Sorry, that's my technical language, but I'm just explaining it how it is, right? And then whilst holding that, you just look forward. I think really it's around a feeling of wonderment. You know what I mean? You're not like, oh my God, where are the balls? Where are they going to be? But it's just like that deep knowingness. You know, we're moving into such an amazing space now that we just have to trust our deep knowingness. And so we just look out, where are they? You know, it's just the excitement and the joy of a child, really. There's my ball over there. There it is there. And with that, it will open up the space that you're looking for with the intention that you've set.
So when you look forward with those balls, does the triangle go forward as well? Or is it just the balls that go forward?
Well, the very, very good question. The triangle stays behind with the balls, and they're grounding it in an ultra-dimensional sphere plate in the internodes. And the what you're seeing moving forward is more the 3D manifestation of the unfolding of that intention. And that's something when we perhaps talk about Gaia and Tara and Nana and the girls coming together as one. I can talk a bit more about why this space behind our back is very, very important right now, and how we can use it, because that's just one way. There are lots of things happening behind us right now.
Yeah, and what is that? I mean, that is the back of our heart chakra, right? What is so important about this space and our awareness of it?
Yeah, well, I can jump into that right now if you like.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, cool. So Gaia, Tara, and Nana, the girls coming together as one right now. As I experience it, one way is that I'm here looking forward at you, Loren, right? And let's just say that aspect is Gaia, is a Gaia aspect of me. Now, visualize there's a second Loren, a second Nicola, And I am standing behind myself, looking outwards, right? Looking out here, and behind myself, looking out there. There's a space between the two. They're not on top of each other. There's a space of a few feet. That space, the back is Tara, front, Gaia, back, aspect, Tara, because we're starting to embody all these aspects, right? And then the middle bit, which is the bit we were working for, is what I like to call the gel that holds it all together, but it's where the star maps are held. It's really quite important for manifestation. And I call that Nana. I don't know where that comes from and exactly who Nana is, but there's something about the girls coming together as one in an integrated way where Nana is central to that. And in terms of my own embodiment, that's what I'm really feeling coming through quite strongly, even in as little as the last couple of weeks. And I was actually looking at some early drawings I did where we activated all of that with the New Earth resonances, which is another piece which I'm be delighted to share with anyone who's interested separately. But when I looked at the drawing before, we had the front aspect, Nicola with Gaia. Then we had the back aspect, Nicola with Tara. And then the middle bit was starting to be colored in. It was just the most amazing moment because I could really see and feel and sense deeply this integration, which is of course happening with ourselves as well. So yeah, that was a little deep dive into that for your question.
Yeah, that's really deep. So integrating that as each of us focus on that and integrate that, just an awareness of what goes on in that space is the work or the
That is
attention,
the
right?
work. In fact, I would suggest just spend a whole day going round as much as you can behind yourself. And when you're talking to people, put your intention behind yourself. Because our cells know, we know this. It's just we sort of forgot which direction to look in. And again, that's about being multidimensional, how we look in different directions. When indeed another tool and big awareness has come through, and we go to the slides, is around the belly button area and looking through our belly button. And in fact, that has some similarities to the exercise we've just done there. So whether it's from the back of the head, right, from the optic nerve through to our eyes, looking through that in a different way, or through our belly button, this is all about new and different ways of perspective, different ways of looking at things, which for me is what the multi-dimensions are all about.
Yes. All right. Thank you for explaining that. That is really cool to think of those perspectives. Thank you for allowing us to expand in those areas. We're going to go to your slides. I just wanted to say there that when we're aware of our own energy system and our multidimensionality, that really is a very powerful aspect, the Gaia, right? Nicola and Gaia aspect, Nicola and Tara aspect. So when we're in that aspect, are you looking, so for example, are you looking, when you're looking back through the Tara aspect, are you actually looking in that direction that way? Or are you just in Tara from that location and she's looking everywhere?
Yeah, I would say it's the latter. I probably need to interject with something, which is why I was pausing for a moment. It must have been around 2016-ish or 15. And I'd reached a stage on my journey where I'm like, well, in fact, I was having epiphany points and various out-of-body experiences and things, but I had an expectation about Gaia that, well, it was my expectation, I I created a limitation, or I thought, well, it's got to be like that, hasn't it? So I thought I'd got to a point where I would just wake up one morning and I would just be permanently in this beautiful, wonderful Gaia space. And I felt that it was coming, you know, I was pretty confident about it. However, something quite different started to happen, which I found really quite perplexing at first. And this is that I started to get codes for unplugging and then further down the road, reversing and removing distortions from Gaia. I thought, well, how is this, Gaia? You're all sorted, right? I was the one with the problem that had to get myself sorted so that I could be with you. What is this? What's wrong? And I just went with it. So you know, for example, when I'm doing codes like that, I might be unplugging all fours ventricing. Well, because we've unplugged from her, I can't actually do that in real time. But it took 2 years. And when I say codes and intensive, I mean crazy, right? Really crazy every day of my life. And I just knew it was to be done because it was flowing. And I didn't want to get caught up in the why am I doing it, or is there something wrong with me or whatever. And everyone else was going around having these wonderful conversations with Gaia and the nature beings, you know, which I have obviously experienced because I was doing that up to that point. Anyway, so Gaia. And I thought, oh, we've got to get to the end of this soon, right? You know, I'm a really committed person, but I must have done flipping tens of thousands of unplugs and reverses removes on Gaia. And then one day, seemed like we were moving on from that. I was like, oh God, fantastic. What happens then? Oh, Tara. No, Tara. No. Unplugging, reversing, removing for about 18 months to 2 years. I thought, okay, I have no choice because, you know, it comes from source, from my future self. It was there. This was work for me to do. Did it. What happened then was that we got to a point where everything that I had been called to clear around Gaia and Tara had been done. And sorry, I just lost my earpiece there. And Nana entered into the frame. I'm like, oh, please, not 2 years of this. I can't, you know, but it didn't. Nana was the integration. There are a few things to clear up, but that frequency, that gelling of everything was, well, it was already, how to describe that, because it was always meant to be like that, right? That was all okay. So yeah, so in answer to your question, which I've slightly forgotten now, I just thought it was important to say that because it was a really important part of my journey of getting to this point, that I had to follow my own path. And I'm not saying that's anybody else's or everybody's or whatever, but I followed my path. And I did it with great energy and trust and determination, even though there were no way shows out there talking about that. In fact, quite the contrary, but I just trusted my heart and that this is what I was called to do. And I you know, stepped up to the task and did it. And now I'm in this incredible place where the integration is formulating, where it's all starting to take place.
Yes, well, you did answer the question beautifully. Thank you. It is the integration. And so it's not just a perspective, but it's an integration. And I think that's the important thing to talk about as we embody all of these aspects. We've heard from other way showers and light workers their own experience of embodiment. So thank you for sharing that experience, because it helps each of us in trusting what each of us get as well. So that's beautiful. All right. You have some slides that further illustrate what you're talking about and what we're discussing here. So let me go to those. Would this be a good time for that?
Yeah, that would be a great
Yes.
time.
Beautiful. So here we go. And again, these are just like the light language that you brought forward. This is light language and codes of its own. And this is one of the activations. I just love the 5-pointed figure in the middle of that. It's like in the apple seed, or when you cut open an apple, there that is. So let's go over these slides, Nicola.
Yeah, so the vibration of oneness, this picture, is part of many slides, pictures rather, that I have. And at the moment, I'm making essences from them, in fact. So I made tonight, this is vibration of oneness water, because I thought I'd better be drinking it for the show. And I do that with increasingly with these drawings, but I'm not going to go into any more detail on this if I may move on. But it's just to highlight that there are many different ways to express the same thing. And when I was bringing through the vibration of oneness, it wasn't just in this drawing, it was also in conversations I was having with the nature beings. I was getting through also very particular visuals. For example, what is the 5D color of this resonance? And I was capturing that. The nature beings were also coming through with sounds. It might be the sound of a bear or a bird. And so the nature beings came through to help us to understand these resonances in so many different ways, which is, of course, what multidimensionality is all about. So the drawing is the fifth aspect, but as I say, along with that, there's the sound and the what I call the multidimensional color and so on. So it is a very rich tapestry. It's a very rich weave. And I almost feel as if they brought it forward just to really help us to understand that depth, but also so that we've got as much choice as we could possibly wish for in terms of how we enter into these frequencies, into these vibrations. You know, if you're someone that's more auditory, you can do it that way, you know, you can get it that way. If you're more visual, this way. If you're a technician and you want the codes, do it that way. That would be the point on that one. Okay, so this is my weird and wacky language. Ah, right. Oh, well, we can move on to the weird and wacky language. This is just absolutely insane. I have to tell you, I put it up because it's really new and I thought everyone might like to hear about something that's right happening in the now. So I was mentioning to you about this point of seeing through our belly button. And I don't know about you, but myself and quite a few people I know have been having issues waking up at night, and there has been stuff around that area of the body. But anyway, I start talking about the igloo on my right-hand side. This igloo is, so I'm quite excited about the igloos. The igloos are just so amazing. They came through several years ago, and they are for a new star map for the constellations. And each of the igloos has lots of codes in it. So this is just one igloo, right? So there are many of them. And there's one sequence for the Northern Hemisphere and one sequence for the Southern Hemisphere. And they're all about bringing in a new galactic north, south, east, and west. Now, before anyone gets concerned about anything, I just want to highlight they're all about bringing it in for what I call overlays, which is a personal choice. So if anyone wants to stick to the old, that's just fine. But this is about the new, and this is about overlays and many multiple choice points into the new. So they came in a while back, activated them as everything with the nature beings and the animals. So I'm going to go to this bit on the right hand, the left hand side, which is Grey's Anatomy. It's why it looks so old. And the area of the body is the ilium. So why am I looking at the ilium? Why is this drawing here? what I have understood literally in the past few weeks is that in the same way that we have a pineal gland in our head, which traditionally, of course, is a source of wisdom and spiritual nourishment and insight, there is a not dissimilar equivalent in our abdominal area, and it's linked to the ilium. And that was where I was directed. And then I had this just moment of flabbergasting, because I was like, my God, that is what they're all about. The igloos are about, because it's the same shape. Now, okay, it's slightly, do you see it? It's the front part of the ilium is the entrance into the igloo. And then you have the other bit of the shape, which is the curved roof and so on. Do you get that?
Yes.
Right. So what my guidance was showing me is that there is this amazing space within us when we focus on that part of the body, which is enabling us to open up new sight, particularly for looking outwards, out of the belly button area, and really feeling our power and coming into our power in this space. It's very early days. I just thought it would be fun to show you that when we're working at a mystical level, it's all about joining these dots, previously unseen or ones that we hadn't been able to perceive before. And then by doing that, everything presents in a completely different and new way, and many gifts alongside that. So for me, this was a gift. Now, there is another part to this, which we could do perhaps in the after party in the Q&A. What depends whether there's time or what you think. But just this afternoon, when I was thinking about what games we're going to play and everything, I actually saw that there's a rather interesting activation that we could do with the igloo, where you bring the igloo together with, in fact, all the igloos. And what happens is that, you see, you got the entrance. That entrance is a little bit of a vulnerability, because this is where it got complicated with planet Earth. In fact, what I was told in terms of one of the reasons I came back here is that there was an error in the calculation. So there you see the opening, and there is an exercise that we could do where we're going to bring all those igloos together as one and turn it into this most amazing snowball. And this snowball activation is a very new space, which I believe will help us with further opening up what we're doing here. But it strikes me as I'm describing this to you that I have just a few feet away from me all the igloo drawings, and I would need to have them here to, you know, to bring in the essence of the whole. So I couldn't actually do it right now, but if it sounds fun for the after party, we could obviously try it there.
Yes, that sounds wonderful. Okay. So multidimensional games, then, this is very interesting. And that's what you're sharing as we look at these images. And it's this, again, is your inner knowledge that gave you this image, right? And this information.
Yeah, that's right. And it was all mission work. Every single drawing I've ever done has been part of a mission. And that's why I talk about purposeful oneness, because I figure there's only a certain amount of hours in the day or days in the week, how to make the most of everything and to make it fun. So it's all, for me, everything is mission work, really.
Okay. All right, beautiful. So then let's go on to your other images here, because this is where it gets interesting.
Oh my God, this is too crazy. Okay, so I had been seeing chandeliers a lot doing mission work. What are all these chandeliers about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was doing some research, and I'm like, oh, that's what a quantum computer looks like. wow. I mean, this isn't the D-Wave computer, the ones they keep in ice, but this is a quantum computer. It's one that's actually in Zurich.
Oh, that's what this is. It's not a chandelier, it's a quantum computer.
It's a quantum computer, but it looked just like, so you understand when you're doing mission work and everything, you see things, but you see them slightly differently. So I was seeing all these chandeliers we're working with, and oh, it's a quantum computer. Right. Now, on the other side, this is actually a drawing of the Tower of Babel that's only a few years old. They brought it together with a lot of historical information using technology to try and visualize what the Tower of Babel looked like. Now, of course, this is Babylonian times, and there's a lot of complexity around what went down then, etc. But what I saw, if you move on to the next slide, if you could be so kind, for me, there was an important connection between the two of them in terms of the work that we were doing. And I wanted to show it just as an illustration that when we are thinking and working multidimensionally, there are so many unusual and different connections to make and to follow the intuition. So when I followed my intuition on this, it then led me to doing work with that drawing. There were some things that needed clearing, right? And then that looped into quantum computers. And here's where it goes even crazier, because of course, we're now on a show called Quantum Conversations, but I pick up well, it's online, but the leading French newspaper, I'm in France at the moment, Le Figaro, and it has a front page feature story on quantum computing. I'm like, okay, right. So there was a reason why I picked this one. And so what I wanted to share with everyone very briefly is actually the comments from people in this French article. There are around 35 comments. I just skimmed through them. And it was interesting because there were people saying, well, this is fantastic, let's embrace all the latest technology. And there are others that are saying, well, where are the boundaries? If these new quantum computers, these D-Wave computers are basically mimicking our brain waves, right? They're going in, they're recreating the human brain. That could get a bit tricky. Maybe we should start asking some questions or understanding how this is all going to unwrap. So I just want to leave it there. But my takeaway was to share that today, because that's what I noticed from the article that was in there on quantum computing. So many amazing things, yes, but we're in complex times.
So what are quantum computers and the Tower of Babel? You're just saying that somehow it's related because it's the intel that you received. So if it's upside down, this Tower of Babel, is that the oneness then that we're returning to?
No, this was a distortion we were dealing with, actually. It was a Babylonian distortion that we were rectifying and remedying. I do, yeah, I haven't really thought about this in any depth, but I think that it perhaps mirrors, there are some tricky routes through quantum as it starts to play out in all these quite beyond technological innovations that are coming fast and thick now. The neural lace and all these sorts of things. So it's another conversation, but I just wanted to highlight here if you're working at a mystical level or even multidimensionally, you start to turn things upside down and inside out. And I'm actually dyslexic, and so I do that anyway. It's not too hard for me to see things upside down, backwards, etc. But there's a lot of valuable information from looking at things differently.
Yes, looking at things differently. That's what we are talking about today. All right, so then we're going to journey on through your images.
We are journeying on, yes. So this was another wow moment. Now, we were working with we were helping to remedy the error in the DNA calculation on the right with those drawings that are just part of a bigger piece of mission work that took place a little while back. And it was only a few months ago that I then saw what you've got in the other side of the picture, which is an extremely advanced way of analyzing the makeup of someone's proteins. I mean, this is like super, super advanced kit. And for me, that was interesting because, you know, when I started to do all these very childlike drawings, I'm like, this is a bit like a child would draw, and I don't really understand what I'm doing. And it's taken all these years to realize that actually that work that I did, even though I didn't truly understand it, and even though I thought it looked a bit childish, was sort of important, that I've been called here to do that. And so the connection I made with these two is that what I was looking at when I was drawing, it wasn't just, you know, any old measuring machine. It was some fairly detailed DNA work.
Mm. And so you were repairing DNA, restoring DNA.
Yeah,
An
we were
error in the
repairing a
DNA.
tear in the DNA.
Wow. Okay, and so we are familiar with sacred glyphs for healing. You are using these actually to repair and to correct
Mm-hmm.
on your mission. That's what they are. These are glyphs. Like you said, you thought they were just drawings, but they're multidimensional.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't really realize it at the moment. I'm one of these people. I just get passionate about something and I do it, and I just got on with it, and it didn't seem to matter. I figured that one day I would get the full picture, which I am now.
And so, I mean, you were drawing these glyphs. Did you use them in any way? Did you meditate with them? Was this just the creation of the image that was the work, or was it something more than this?
The creation of the image was part of the work. The work integrated with many other steps. It was part of a mission. So, and at that time, they were very complex missions that could easily take 4 to 6 hours solid and many weeks of preparation. So it was quite a big piece. This is a snapshot of one aspect of it.
So, as we sit and look at this image now, is it doing anything to us?
Well, what I would say is that in recent months, I've created what are called overlays. And these are included in one of the 4 sets of overlays that have been created for Nanya, which is the new Earth plane that I hold.
Mm.
So yeah, there is something very special about them, but they're all part of a series that inform the overlays, which open up a platform into Nanya, a platform that can build on really wherever anybody is at this point in time, should they so wish. So it's very much about bridging into the new, and these do form part of that. Yeah.
Bridging into the new. And I love the Nana is the new earth aspect, the new earth resonance. Beautiful. Okay. So, our next slide, here's another one.
Yeah. So again, at the time, I'm just like, you know, it's very childish. These are, it says 15 celebratory origami pieces, swans, but it was swans cells, if I say that correctly, which are, of course, they're in our cellular makeup. And these are codings for corrections. I've got hundreds of these. In fact, I'm going to be pulling it all together, hopefully, into a sort of multi-dimensional, I don't know, the new multi-dimensional body framework aspects, but there are lots of them. And oh, I know, I was just going to say something else in relation to this one. Oh, yes, triangles. Sorry. Lots of triangles in this one and in another one we're going to see in a moment. And I think we are, as people are saying, moving into triangles. And on my website, oneness.team, on the front page, there's a picture of me from behind, and I'm holding two balloons. And the most crazy thing happened with the balloons. I had no idea, but 3 circles of light found themselves on the balloons. And not only that, but a piece of grass decided that it would curve, and it must have been hugely long, right across to touch one of those balls. So this idea of the 3 balls, the triangulation, the exercise we were doing behind the back a few moments ago, and the one that we may do in the after party, it's all very interconnected. But there's another little story just to bring in around this of multi-dimensional way of understanding the body, and this childlike way that I was doing it. So the other day I was getting in codes around Desdemona. Now Desdemona is a figure in, I think it's Othello or Hamlet. But I was doing these codes, Desdemona, Desdemona. I'm like, what's that all about? So I come home and I get my book of microbiology, and I've got a textbook, a 3D textbook on all that microbiology thing. And I just opened it at a page, and opened up a page, I think it was like page 997, right on the page talking about Desdemonas. It was the same thing. And it's part of our body. In fact, it's part of our skin. And so that's why it's just so much fun, because, you know, it's here in the drawings, but it's in our physical experience. And then we're mapping it out, like I showed earlier with the other bit of the human body, into the 3D body. I just wanted to share that.
Fascinating. And I just love the, you know, like the book that you found, and just putting it all together, the pieces. It's very, very interesting. Okay.
So this is another example. Again, we got the theme of the triangles. But I just wanted to use this opportunity to talk about why all this child stuff. Because, you know, when it first happened, I was like, well, people are putting these things out on Instagram, and they look like beautiful artwork. And my stuff looks sort of childish. And it was only a few weeks ago, actually, that I understood about this child bit and why it's so important. It's a future aspect, I believe, of myself, a child aspect, or I guess it could be a child who's not from here. But what I understood is this. If you think it's useful for me to share with everyone why I tapped into that child aspect.
Oh, yes. Yes, please tell.
Okay, so it's one of these life story things. I had a traumatic event about 10 years ago, where I had a miscarriage, which was a big deal for me because my whole life had been really trying to get pregnant. It was my big thing. I didn't really deal with it at the time. It has to be said now, looking back, but it was a big trauma event. There was another traumatic event that happened to me when I was about 3 or 4. I don't know too much about it, and I haven't either looked into that in great detail, but there were 2 traumatic events. And what happened is that when the trauma happened when I was 3 or 4, and I was a child, I went into, or I believe I was shown and guided into, a very safe, amazing, healing child aspect to help me with that. And I believe that when I had the next trauma in my adult life that I just described, that I went back, that 2 points in time were connected. You know what I mean? There was a channel, and I was able to access that 4-year-old part of myself, and that 4-year-old part of myself accessed something that was not from here. This information is not from here. And so even though it all sounds traumatic, perhaps, it was the most incredible gift to be able to open up into this space. And it's a space that I call home, and that I love, you know, this frequency. So that I believe is the reason why these childlike drawings come through.
Very quantum as well, in the instant healing across all timelines when you make that connection, right?
Yeah.
Very good. All right, now what's this about?
Oh, I thought that one had been taken out. Oops. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say about that one. Well, these are my home codes, actually. These are my home codes.
Your home codes, codes to home, your home, off planet. Okay.
Yeah, they are actually evolving. So this is how they were when they first came in. They are not fully activated, because you'll see there's a lot of pencil. They are slowly but surely being activated. But they, in fact, it is a good point to make, perhaps, that we all have different home frequencies and different pathways home, different experiences on that pathway. And that's something that I really love helping people with, is finding their own paths home. And I find that with all the tools, etc., that I've got, that I've used for myself, that they can help people to bridge. And so whilst you couldn't look at these and find home for you, perhaps, they are part of, I guess, the sharing of these different expressions does open things up for people, and I can work with people in different ways to help them to find their home paths. Because all I can say is, for me personally, to be able to tap into that home frequency is totally, absolutely everything. For me, it is absolutely everything to be able to tap into home. And so, yeah, those are my home codes.
The home codes. And we're going to talk about ways that people can work with you closely and have you advise them and help them connect more deeply to their codes and all of it. And we'll talk about that in a moment. All right, we're going to go on. We've got a few more slides. Oh, this is the last one, but this is a beautiful one. What's this about?
Well, this actually links into the mission, the mastery course that I've developed, which I haven't done before. It's especially for your show and your community. This is actually Mono Lake in California. And the reason I'm showing you is that we're looking at it from above. And if you look at it from above, it looks like a skull. It's part of you see that, the human head, the skull. And this is this point I've been making about seeing things differently. Now, I actually have a drawing, which is an overlay for that. And this is a consciousness entrance point. And so when we go on our mission, we're going to be entering via that into consciousness. And on the drawing, I've got, there's a certain part of the drawing where there is a blocker, a limitation to full multidimensional conscious awareness as I see it, that I think would be helpful for everyone to explore, so that limitation can be removed. I don't exactly know what's going to happen after that, but I do know that it exists. We're going to go on a really fun journey down the spine points, which, as I mentioned, is one of the systems that I've got, and using other methods like the quadrants and keys that we started. So the whole mission, the whole journey is just a fun learning experience, obviously with a rationale, a reason for doing it as well. So I just wanted to share that little piece of insight into what we'll be doing for anyone who'd like to sign up to that.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Very, very cool. That is a mastery empowerment course that Nicola will be teaching at acoustichealth.com. And though that's a 2-hour event, and it's a very cool, affordable experience for everyone. What I'm going to do is toss that into the chat line. I'm tossing in a link to this event. Again, this event is coming up with Nicola. And also, Nicola has a way of working with you. She offers personal sessions. Let's talk now about personal sessions and what those are all about, how those are very, very empowering for the people that you work with.
Yeah, so what I'm offering everybody is a package where you can go on the mission with me. And by the way, not just me, obviously it's the team, it's the nature beings and the animals, it goes without saying. But I'm also offering a little short session for anybody who's got a particular issue. So what we'll do is we'll go in using a little, you've heard of the codes and the way that we look at things from different perspectives, but very much with the goal to resolve whatever that is. And the other one is more flexible, I guess, because goodness, we've been talking for a while now, and there's just so much that's not even covered. I help people who are having problems with frequencies. I'm frequency sensitive. I'm like the princess and the pea. I mean, honestly, I can tell if a satellite is going over. And so there's that whole bit where I've got a lot of experience, largely based on having to sort it out for myself, but helping hypersensitive spiritual people to deal with these challenges that we face, Wi-Fi and heck 5G and all this stuff. So that's something that we can do in the longer sessions, or really just deep diving into any aspect that presents. But as I say, it is all based on these unique tools. Plus, I'm hoping, and I feel that the essences are going to start coming into play, and that I can be using those in healing. Thus far, it's just been myself and a small group of people who are trying them out and giving me feedback. So once we've finished going through that process, I'm really excited about sharing them more broadly.
Very, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Very, very cool. All right. So, again, to learn more about that personal session, please click on the special offer link here on this webpage or in our chat box, and you'll be able to see that event that we have with Nicola coming up. It is a good class to go deeper and to activate in all new ways. And then there's the personal session with her as well. You are including the frequency immersion songs as well. These are coded star songs. Tell us about those.
Yeah, I have got quite a few. Those ones were, I just need to say this, were originally to share as a small group because I've overlaid them on music and I have not bought that music. So they're just informal sharing. They are pretty wild, but it's about having fun, and I'd be delighted to share them with anyone who wants to. I have got more traditional types of frequency audios that I can share around Gaia frequencies and others, but these are just plain having fun songs, and the themes we've been talking about today, working with colors, working with points in time, and working with Gaia, Tara, just a whole bundle of fun, really.
A whole bundle of fun. Yes. Okay. And then the Mastery Empowerment course, again, I want to talk about how that's going to cover the Gaia spine points. Can you talk about those before we wrap up our show today? Just a little bit about how we can actually embody those areas and connect to nature.
Yeah. The Gaia spine points were, of course, brought forward by the nature beings and the animals. Now, the way I chose to do it was down North America, going through, including well-known places like Manchester, for instance, and Sedona, right the way down Machu Picchu, and down to the Arctic, in fact. However, I think it's quite important that, like I said earlier, just because those are the ones that came forward for me does not mean that everyone has to have those same points. You know, there could have been very specific reasons. In fact, there were, because we did a lot of mission work around it, that I was working with those particular sequences and alignments. But the principle was this. Over a period of time, I got back to the 3D biology thing, you know, here's the spine. So you got, you know, lumbar 1, L2, L3, L4, etc. You get that out, and then you ask for a nature being. You know, you invite a nature being to come forward, and they come forward, and what they will help do is activate a different type of connection through your spine into nature. And you can choose, like I did, a location on the planet. We chose particular points. They were often sacred sites, but not always. There were some new ones. But I don't think that's even essential. It's more about really listening to your deep guidance, in every way, shape, and form, about how we can make a closer connection with the natural world and with the nature beings and animals. And when we do that, they'll show us the best way to do it. So I think that's the way to look at it, rather than more, you know, analytically. I must find a part of the world that, you know, if I join all these bits up, you see, the crazy thing with mine was it actually looks like a spine, the points that I got. And I'm going to share that drawing with everybody who's going to go on that mission. And we will be activating people's individual spine points. I'll be showing people how to do that in that particular session when we do it.
Great. All right. So sign up for that. The date is not listed there. And Nicola, we have not talked about that. So we'll get that date up for everyone. So check back there and you'll see that. That's a beautiful experience. And we'll be sending an email out to everybody with that event as well. That one is $33. And it's a beautiful way to go deeper in this as we journey towards our mastery empowerment. So thank you. All right. Well, Nicola, this is beautiful. We're going to hang out on our Zoom for just a few minutes afterwards, and you're going to do the igloo snowball. Yeah, we're looking forward to that. And so we actually have our after party open. If you're on our website, you can see the Zoom link. So come on Zoom and join us. And we're just going to hang out in a little community after this broadcast. Nicola, thank you so much for sharing this wisdom. It was only, I say, just the very tip of an iceberg of wisdom that you have to share with us. And so as we wrap up this sacred circle today, is there anything that you'd like to recap in perhaps the single most important message for our audience today?
Well, the single most important message for the audience is that we have so much support in the natural world from the nature beings and from the animals. But at the same time, I would like to say that they are going through a very challenging time at the moment. We think about ourselves and everyone's worried about 5G, etc. But as an anti-wind farm activist, I can tell you that the infrasound that the whales that are being beached up all over the world are experiencing, the way that birdsong, the birds aren't even singing in the way they should be when they're in the vicinity of these turbines. That's just one little example of the many challenges that they're facing. And for me, purposeful oneness is about, yes, them coming and helping us, but it's about us helping them. You know, we're all in team oneness together. And that's the takeaway I'd like to share with everyone.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing this alignment with oneness in our episode today and expanding each of our own perspectives in the new ways, and for sharing the single most important message. Thank you so much, Nicola Bosdet, for this beautiful quantum conversation. And it is embodiment, and it is this connection to the higher self. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for being here as well. We're going to stick around on our Zoom just a little bit, and we invite you to join us. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this quantum conversation, and thank you for dancing with us to the cosmic heart. As we raise our own vibration, we raise the vibration of the planet. This show is dedicated to you and all awakening hearts, as we are here to shine our bright light and amplify our love. Access all quantum conversations, special offers from our guests, and online healing retreats by visiting acoustichealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and from my sacred heart to yours, I honor your magnificent love and light. We leave you now with music from the universe. Music literally created by the universe, as musical notes were assigned to mathematical equations. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com. Namaste.